Welcome to the Trailblazers. I'm your host, Perry Rarick. The purpose of the Trailblazer interview series is to share with you interesting and thought provoking discussions I have with trailblazing business leaders. They're innovative, they're experts at what they do, and they're not afraid to challenge the status quo when they can achieve meaningful results. My trailblazer guests today are Rick Hancock and Hannah Kinney from Argonaut Manufacturing Services. That's a contract development and manufacturing organization serving the pharmaceutical industry in the Carlsbad, California area. Let me tell you a little bit about my guests. Rick Hancock serves as the CEO at Argonaut. He has 34 years of life sciences experience in senior management, R&D, operations, and quality. He most recently served as the CEO of Althea Technologies. And prior to Althea, he was senior director of operations at the Immune Response Corporation. Rick has significant experience in CGMP manufacturing, regulatory affairs, scale up, operational protocols, and team leadership. My other guest is Hannah Kinney. They work together. She serves as the director of business development at Argonaut, placing her at the forefront of the highly specialized capabilities that Argonaut has in the pharma CDMO space. She has a gifted expertise in identifying market growth opportunities and translating complex client needs into effective manufacturing solutions. That's a big gap there, and she's going to talk a little bit about that. She is currently focused on driving Argonaut's expansion by cultivating new client relationships and establishing impactful strategic relationships. And as you'll discover during our discussion, both Rick and Hannah each have an infectious optimism about drug therapies and their work at Argonaut. Rick and Hannah, welcome to the Trailblazers.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Barry.
Barry.
It's wonderful to be with you.
It's great to have you, and I'm very excited. I've been excited about this for a while. So I've been really looking forward to this day. Well, when I first met Hannah and then Rick, I was struck by their sincerity and the passion for what they do. And this is also something that I'm passionate about. Their ability to speak about their business and their capabilities in a way that goes beyond those marketing taglines that just they become so routine. That's going to come through when we speak today. Today, we're going to hear their stories as well as Argonauts. So I'd like to start off with you, Rick. I guess we'll kick it off. Can you tell us briefly, what does Argonaut do?
You bet. Thanks, Perry. So, when I got into the biotech business about 40 years ago, most companies, if you wanted to develop a drug, you had to do it on your own. So you had to raise money for not only the R&D, but set up a small clinical manufacturing operation, and it was a really heavy lift. So over the years, there's developed a contract manufacturing industry. Initially, I was involved in it on the biologics and drug side. But about 10 years ago, our founder at Argonaut, Wayne Woodard, was working in life sciences and diagnostics with some very large companies. And he had 30 manufacturing facilities all around the world. Some were in great shape, very compliant, modern facilities. Some were really legacy facilities that they'd acquired that were not in great shape. And he was envious of the pharma model of outsourcing. They just didn't have that in life sciences and diagnostics. So that's why he started Argonaut with a very high level of quality. The first person he hired was somebody to set up the quality system. And a lot of the diagnostics that are being produced are used to make life and death decisions. And he thought that they should be made with the highest levels of compliance possible. So he started Argonaut initially at supporting life sciences, diagnostics companies for their outsourcing needs. And then as we grew, we hired a bunch of colleagues that I had worked with in the past who had tremendous experience on the pharmaceutical, biotech, and drug side of things, filling pharmaceuticals that are used in the clinic and commercial. And Hannah, you want to talk a little bit about that side of the business?
Yeah, no, so exactly what Rick was saying is we have now this fill finish side of the business where we can fill drug product in isolators. We have isolator based filling technology at Argonaut Manufacturing Services where we can fill vials, syringes, and cartridges. And Rick and the larger leadership team, they've been in the fill finish CDMO space for decades and they kind of got together and they're like, how can we provide the best solution and the safest drug product possible for our clients? And they created Argonaut.
I love your story. That's a great story. It sounds like you lived it, Rick. So it's very interesting, and I love your capabilities. So important now. Phil Finish is still, it was kind of set on its side during COVID, and it I'm not sure we've even straightened it out. It's still badly needed. So important. I'm going to get a little Simon Sinek and get into the why behind the business. So the industry you set out, and you described this a little bit, Rick. You set out to, and I'm going to, in quotes, create a better solution for contract manufacturing. What were you seeing besides what you already mentioned? What were you seeing in this pharmaceutical and specifically outsourcing landscape that troubled you?
Well, so first off, on the diagnostics and life sciences side, some of the kits, again, for making life changing decisions, were being made in essentially a clean warehouse, where perhaps the operators would wear, hair nets and have minimal quality oversight. So Wayne and the founders of the company really wanted to have a much higher level of compliance. So in all of our manufacturing areas, we have very strict gowning requirements, a lot of training, and a very high level of quality compliance and regulatory compliance. So that was one of the differentiators early on. And then as we moved into drug products, so again, the filling of pharmaceuticals, when I got into this industry 40 years ago, for early stage, we did hand filling. So with a lot of qualifications and, sterile environments, but increasingly the regulations around producing pharmaceuticals have moved up and up and up, both in the US and overseas. Europe, especially, is really pushing the standards. So Hannah mentioned that all of our filling now is in isolators. So the barrier to entry to get into pharmaceutical filling has gone up many, many fold. Um, so in the US, it's not quite as stringent as Europe, but most people, when they're producing their clinical batches and certainly commercial, they want the option to be able to do clinical trials or commercial, both in the US, in Europe, overseas. And so then they're forced to comply with the European requirements, which are extremely stringent. So everything has to be done in an isolator with robotics. There's virtually no human intervention. The components, the requirements for the components going into the operation have really increased. So when we were getting into this, we thought, okay, if we're going to do it, we're really going to do it right. We're going to make the serious investment in state of the art equipment, which is so expensive. We just put in a new line, but it's worth it. We have our customers or regulatory people come through that new facility, and they're just very excited with what they're seeing because it's not only state of the art, but it's forward looking to where the regulations are going. Hannah, would you have any other comments on that?
No, I would agree with everything you're saying. I think the industry is really leaning more into isolator-based filling, especially with the Annex 1 compliance and guidelines that are out there. They basically say you need to be filling inside isolators. And I think Rick and the executive team did a really good job listening to the client and hearing the client needs over years and creating a fill finish CDMO that really accommodates those clients.
If there's if you could expand on that a little bit, certainly your equipment, state of the art, all the right equipment to make things happen correctly with this regulated industry. But when I talk to you, I hear things that just set you apart. What is that cultural aspect of that?
Sure. Hannah, go ahead. How do
Okay,
you,
I love it.
and then I'll
Yeah, let
as
me
well.
what I think makes Argonaut different is we are set up in a way to we are a small scale fill finish CDMO provider. We can do clinical all the way up to commercial. At the same time, we're not making, we don't have filling lines that can pump out millions and millions of units. We are catered to this amazing client base where sometimes it's just a woman or man and a molecule, and these large CDMO structures are just not a great fit for them. And Argonaut Manufacturing Services has this kind of white glove service where every client's important. We have these amazing top of the line filling technology that these clients can access and have the best kind of setup for their product and the safest way to fill their product, but also get the attention and their needs fulfilled. So I hope that answers your question, Perry.
I like how you talk about your customer
Yeah.
in a very personal way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a lot of strategic partnerships. When I look at your partner list, I'm thinking, "Oh, aren't these competitors?
Mhm.
Wh- Why?"
You bet. That's a great question. So, when Scott Goldstein, who's the head of business development for our drug product side, uh, gosh, it's been a couple of years now. He came to me and said, "Hey, we're going to set up these strategic partnerships with people who make the drug substance. So for biologics, that might be people making a monoclonal antibody, but often they're really good at that. That's what they focus on, but they don't do a whole lot of other activities like fill finish. So they were potentially losing clients to the really big CDMOs that Hannah mentioned, who have everything under one shop, who can make the monoclonal antibody, do the filling, do the distribution, packaging, all those things. So we decided to have or Scott set up a partnership with an initial group. And I said, well, good luck. I've tried this in the past in my career, and sometimes they look really good on paper and they make a lot of sense, but they don't really go anywhere. But the relationships that Scott and the team have set up and fostered have been incredibly productive. And I think the big difference is it fills a need that our clients have. They don't want to manage they want to work with people who are real experts at what they do, but they don't necessarily want to manage a whole lot of people in their supply chain. So through these partnerships, the monoclonal antibody producer can produce the active pharmaceutical ingredient and then contract with us to do the filling. And from the patient's perspective, it's all seamless. But the thing that's really driven it is the personal relationships of Scott, Hannah, Sylvia, and now Tessa on our team, who build those really strong personal relationships with our partners, the business development groups. We do uh, joint parties. We just had a grand opening for our new facility, and our partners were there. When we go to bio and other huge conventions, we do joint events, and the relationships continue to grow and flourish. It's great for us. It's great for our partners, and I think it's really good for our partner clients.
Yeah. Well, Rick, you mentioned that Hannah is one of those people that maintains those relationships. Hannah, how do you do it? How do you have a positive relationship with these seemingly competitors in a way that you don't get into a food fight
Mhm.
over projects? You know?
Yeah. I think a lot of our competitors, or sorry, a lot of the folks that we have partnerships with, they recognize that they're really great at the drug substance and API side. We are really great at the fill finish, filling the drug product and isolator based filling technology. And then we even have a partner on the packaging side too, where again, we feel like they're really great at the packaging and labeling side. So being able to link all of these together and provide the best solution as possible to the client, I think everyone can get on board with that because everybody wants a happy client at the end of the day, a repeat client at the end of the day. So we're all excited to be able to listen to the client, hear what they're looking for, and cater to them.
Yeah, really good. What a mature way to look at this space. Uh, that will kind of take us into the next topic. Okay, the end user of all of these things that we're involved in. Uh, Oftentimes, this is how I met you, Hannah. I host a series of events where CDMOs talk about their capabilities and their capacity. Here's what we can do, capacity. Here's how we do it, and here's how long you can wait in line to get access to this capacity. It's often very technical, these presentations, and it's appropriately technical. That's what the audience is looking for. However, you don't shy away from talking about your customer's customer, which are the patients out there. Why is that, and how does it work?
Yeah, I think it's really important because in large, this industry, what is this all for? This is all for the patient at the end of the day, right? We are creating a drug that's going to help a disease, an indication that is really heartbreaking to a lot of people and touches a lot of people. And what I really like about Argonaut is, again, we are a small scale filling CDMO. Our largest batch size, we've done as little as a couple hundred units all the way up to 100,000 units. So we tend to cater to these small, rare disease space, small scale indications. And at Argonaut, we have this great opportunity where the client can present to our company about their product, who it's going to go to, and you get to hear these amazing patient stories. And it's really nice when the manufacturing associates, the visual inspectors who do this day in and day out, and they're working with all sorts of different drug products. And when they see that client's name kind of come across as they're doing the fill that day, they're like, oh, wow, I'm helping. It could just be one patient. We've done products for just one patient. Oh, I'm helping Amelia, or I'm helping, um, this one special patient. So I think when you kind of have a bigger picture like that, it gives you more purpose in your work and in what you do. So that's what I really love about it.
I'm going to refer to it as a tradition. What you described, what an incredible idea! I've heard that. I don't think it's all that common, but what I'm so glad you're doing that. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
that and
Yeah.
tying this to the end state. I'll meet somebody and I tell them what I do. I work in this. Most of our audience is in the pharmaceutical industry, and they get it. They're passionate about what we're doing. I occasionally meet, I'll meet somebody who isn't, and I tell them what I do, and they immediately go to, all of the, negative stuff. And I said, you know what? I don't think we can be friends. Your attitude like that. So I really love highlighting that. And what a great, great tradition you have there in doing that. That's really good. I want to turn to how you communicate. Now we're going to get into nuts and bolts of marketing and sales and communicating what you do to an external audience. And I this is something that I call the buyer's journey. And most of the people we come in contact with from a business development point of view and marketing are people who aren't ready to buy. Yet you very intentionally spend a lot of time engaging those people, knowing that they're not at the end of the buyer's journey. They're not making a decision. They don't have a funded project, but you very intentionally engage with them. Why is that a strategy of yours?
Yeah, I think if anyone's listening to this, they're likely in the industry and they know how small the industry is. I didn't believe it. That was one of the first things I remember one of my mentors told me is, Hannah, this industry is really small. And after a few years, I was like, oh, yeah, it is really small. You see the same people. And it's I think what's important is to always be a resource to clients. Even if we're not a fit right now, we could be a fit later. Um, and oftentimes, the more conversations I have, the more I'm learning from clients, from providers, and I will learn, okay, maybe we're not a fit right now. Maybe we'll be a fit 4 or 5 years from now. Maybe we'll be a fit when you go to another company. Who knows where they're going to end up? So I always go around and I try to obtain a list of providers to that can do things that maybe Argonaut isn't necessarily set up to do or is a fit to do. So that way I can be a resource to clients and give them recommendations. So I think the closer you are to the buyer, also the more you hear about what the client is looking for and what their needs are. And then I can also bring that back to Rick and the executive team and say, hey, I'm hearing a lot about filling in 0.5 ml syringes. I think this is where we really need to go in order to accommodate the buyer too. So closer I am to hearing what's out there and what the buzz is, the more we can be a better supplier as well to the buyer.
I love that feedback loop that you just highlighted, that you're learning more about what your clients need, and that's I mean, that's how you were founded. You discovered an unmet need in this market, and decided to do something about it. Really great stuff. Rick, I wanna ask you, so, I don't know if I've ever spoken to a CEO and a business development director at the same time in the same interview. Hannah's at the pointy end of the spear, and you're managing, this, organization in a very strategic way. Why what's the why behind that? How do you do that? And the other so two-part question. Why is that? And I think this is you're probably gonna answer with this, but how do you manage this culture that you've established in Carlsbad?
You bet. So, I started out as an operations person, process development, quality control. And I always saw the business development team, going off and doing their thing. And I didn't understand it that well. And then as I kind of grew in management, started having much more interaction. And I grew to have a huge respect for business development people. And then for 6 months, I actually went over to Europe and did business development for our company. And I saw firsthand how hard it is and how some people have an incredible talent for it. So I have the most respect. As an organization, we talk about everyone is in sales, and it's really true. As a CDMO, every person in the company at some point is going to have contact with our clients. Um, we empower our BD team. Well, first of all, it's finding the right people. And we're very fortunate to have Hannah, who actually grew up in this industry, knows it extremely well, and other people who have come up, many of them through technical roles and then moved into business development. So all of our BD team has tremendous knowledge, but their main goal is to engage with the clients, see how we can possibly help and partner, and then put the prospective client in contact with our technical team. And when we have a client visit, a client call, everybody shows up. Everybody drops what they're doing because we all understand that we can have the best operation on the planet, but if we don't have sales, if we're not supporting the BD team, we don't have a whole lot to do. So we're very blessed with the team that we have, and everybody really enjoys their successes and helping them out.
I love how you describe that. Certainly, it fosters this culture that you have there, that you created. The other part, it's more practical, but, you know, if you have more hands-on, during those calls, that expedites the start of a project, which is, you're not wasting time. So, so important. That's so valuable that you approach it that way.
And it also it builds the relationship very early on. Hannah mentioned that we're often a resource for our partners, and whether it's the two people who discover a molecule and need a whole lot of hand holding, or even big pharma. We had one of the biggest big pharma in recently, and we were discussing the new regulations and where things were going. And it was a really good give and take. Okay, this is what we're seeing from various European regulatory bodies and what they're seeing. So it's all about building those relationships as early as possible.
Yeah, awesome, awesome model. I love how you've institutionalized it, to make it permanent. Hannah, Rick mentioned you grew up in this industry. Would you tell us a little bit about that? Do you mind doing that?
Yeah, sure. I can definitely talk about that. My family helped start and found a fill finish CDMO in the early 2000s, which eventually got sold to MRI, which is now Curia. They kind of left that experience and said, you know what? If we could, this was before really isolators were taking off and time passed. And they said, you know what? If we had had the funds and knew what we were doing, what would we build? and they built out another fill finish CDMO that was all isolator based. So that's why I'm really passionate about isolators. And then eventually that got sold as well, and now it's a part of a larger fill finish CDMO chain. So I remember as a kid growing up and my family coming in and doing show and tells and dressing up fully gowned in suits and feeling like the coolest kid ever, coming in with syringe pens and syringe highlighters. And now I'm still in the space, which I never thought I would be in. But so I have a real passion for what Argonaut does and the team that we have at Argonaut, because I think it really, it helps a lot of people. So
What an awesome story. I love that. And that must have been some interesting dinner discussions.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. I totally agree.
Awesome story. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I want to turn our sights to the future a little bit. By the nature of how you do business development, uh, Rick, all of your experience in this, where do you see us? And I don't know who wants to go first, but I'd ask you to kind of speculate about the future. Where will this space be in 5, 10, 15 years? And Argonaut, what will Argonaut's role be in it?
You bet. So I think the industry is going to be continue to be more and more highly regulated. Um, the barrier is going to keep getting higher. That's why when we built our new filling line, we weren't looking to just comply with the standards as they are today, but where do we think they're going to be in 2 or 3 years? Um, so, the goal of the regulatory bodies is to protect the patients, and regulators see all kinds of negative consequences when fill finish isn't done really correctly. So that's why they put in these regulations. We understand them; they make sense, but we want to make sure that we stay one step ahead. Excuse me. So for us, I think we've made a tremendous investment in our new filling line. So our first filling line would take us to batches up to 20,000 just in vials. As Hannah said, our new line will be batches up to 100,000 and potentially beyond in syringes, vials, cartridges. So we recently had an open house and introduced that facility to the world. We're doing the final validation on it, and as soon as that's done, we'll start planning on our next line. You have to plan way in advance. It takes at least 3 years from planning stages to get a line completed. So we'll start building that based on the customer input that Hannah and the team give us about what what our partners need now and where it's going in the future. So in the new line, for example, we'll probably add lyophilization because a lot of people are freeze drying their pharmaceutical products for shelf life and other applications. Hannah, where do you see us going?
Wherever Rick tells me we're going. No, just joking, just joking. No,
The other way
I
around.
agree. I agree with Rick. I am constantly asking for more feedback. So occasionally we don't win business, maybe there's someone better suited for the client in that moment. And I take that feedback back to Rick, and that is what's used to help grow our business. So um, I I'm excited by our new filling line that's coming out, and the more capacity that we'll be continuing to add, as Rick mentioned, with the new third filling line. So
Yeah, Hannah, how do you think the business development role may evolve over the next decade or so? You're going to still be part of it. I'm probably not. But how do you think that, what will be the demands on business development people in this space?
yeah, I think I'm curious. I don't know. Everything I say is a prediction, but I think it's really important to continually stay responsive to the client. So I'm kind of going off track here with your question, but it'll circle back around. The three things I always tell clients to look for when they're talking to fill finish providers are a high quality system. That's number one. So have they been inspected by the FDA? Have they had QP inspections? Are they Annex 1 compliant if that's important to you? Flexibility, being able to support a client clinical all the way up to commercial, but also operationally, are they flexible? And then responsiveness. So I think something that's really important as clients are and as the CDMO space grows is, are you responsive to the client? Um, we can usually turn around quotes within a couple of days. And I've talked to clients. I just got off the phone with a client this morning where it's been almost a month and a half and they're still waiting on proposals. And that's really infuriating. It's really infuriating to a client that really needs to go fast. They don't have this time. A lot of times for the client, this product is their baby, like it means a lot to them. So it's really hard for me to see when the client isn't being responded to. So I think as BD continues down the line, it's going to be important to constantly always be responsive to the client, both from the BD perspective, but also operationally too, which is something that's really great at Argonaut as well. Everyone's very responsive.
Yeah, great advice. You're living the future, I think.
Yeah.
You are the pioneer in how this is going to be done.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, that's why you're here. You're a trailblazer, right? That's
Yeah.
Perry, I would just add, we're looking at all kinds of tools to help our BD team, AI, more and more sophisticated web searches. That's how some people find us. But, as it is in the past, and I think as it'll probably be in the future, it's all about the human interaction. Um, Hannah mentioned about the trust that has to be established. Sometimes these APIs are they cost, 5, 6, 7 million dollars, and they have to trust us that we're going to do the best job humanly possible. And they're trying very hard to get in the clinic. They have limited resources, so at the end of the day, it's person to person relationship building and building that trust.
Yeah. Well, what a great way to close this out. It all comes back to trust. So true. Well, thank you for being with us. How does somebody get a hold of either one of you or both of you at Argonaut?
Yeah. You can go to our contact us page on our website, at Argonaut Manufacturing Services. You can also reach out to myself directly at Hannah Kinney at argonautms.com.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would love to talk to people. We're very, very enthusiastic about this space.
I can tell. I'm sure everybody can see that. Great. What a great time I've had hearing your stories and the story of Argonaut. Thank you very much for being with the Trailblazers. Rick Hancock, he is the CEO at Argonaut Manufacturing Services, and Hannah Kinney, the Director of Business Development at Argonaut. Thank you very much for being a trailblazer, but for being trailblazers and for being on the Trailblazers.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you so much, Gary.